When Toby Fox dropped that early cutscene from Chapter 5, showing off Tenna, Mike and some new lore, it felt like a gift. But there is a catch. You aren't actually supposed to see this scene yet, not unless you're willing to be a jerk. To trigger this in-game, you have to abandon Tenna in Castletown, instead of finding him a new home. By showing this teaser early, Toby Fox engineered an insidious trap. He made us feel like doing the right thing means missing out on content. To understand why this changes everything, we have to look at what a perfect playthrough used to look like, and how we saved Tenna's life before. This side story starts right at the beginning of Chapter 4, when you are free to roam hometown. There is a spooky house you have probably checked out if you like exploring. Inside it lives a ghost who answers the door for you but refuses to come out. From context clues we can say for sure that it's Metaton, at least the much quieter Deltarune version of him. They are not the flashy pop star we're used to from Undertale. They have no drive and no inspiration. They're just existing in their house, calling themselves a nobody. Even jokingly calling Chris a fan of theirs if you visit twice, like bro is really craving attention. And in a quote-unquote perfect playthrough, you give them a muse to light up their life. It's Tenna. You can actually donate Tenna to Metaton right away, as soon as Chapter 4 starts and you get out of the church. But if you don't do that, and also don't bring him to Castletown before rainfall, you can witness a sorry sight. Toriel just throws him out on the street in the pouring rain like old junk, and covers him with a tarp. And I'm not even sure why. Like, did she expect him to be picked up like garbage or something? Then why cover him from the rain? Is she stupid? So even if Susie fixed him up earlier, it doesn't matter. He still ends up discarded. This is the same Tenna who spent all of Chapter 3 begging to be seen. Needless to say, this hits hard. Because Tenna is a character who is defined by a desperate fear of becoming obsolete, to the point that he made a deal with the Roaring Knight, Deltarune's supposed main antagonist, just so he could have all the people watch him that he wants. That's why giving him to Metaton felt so perfect. We hear Metaton light up as they watch one of Tenna's salacious music videos and feel something awakening within them. It hints at a character arc similar to Undertale's. Both characters get what they wanted. And there is something that really hit me different when I noticed it. If you go back to Undertale and look inside Metaton's house, there he is, Tenna, but pimped up with Metaton's favorite color. It feels like reverse foreshadowing. Like Toby already made this extravagant TV show host character years ago, and now in Deltarune he is giving us the version that technically inspired them. But Toby's teaser broke that perfect solution, because players know that if they leave Tenna in Castletown, instead of letting Metaton adopt him, they get exclusive cutscenes. You get to see more of the Mike trio, you get more Spamton lore, and more Tenna. This incentivizes dedicated players to keep Tenna. It tempts you to deprive Metaton of their inspiration, leaving them to rot in that house. But what happens to Tenna in this scenario? Isn't it at least okay for him to spend time with his friends in Castletown? Actually, he doesn't get a happy ending. The teaser shows that he is still miserable. He's pacing around, ruminating about his relationship with Spamton, screaming about how the divorce wasn't his fault, and still badly treating his employees. And to drive the point home, Tenna directly tells you, "Please find someone to adopt me." You would be actively choosing to keep a character trapped in their trauma, denying them their life's purpose, all for one simple reason. You want to see more content. And now you have to make a choice. But you were never really supposed to know that this choice even existed. We only have this dilemma because Toby Fox showed his hand early. By dropping this teaser months before release, Tricky Tony made it impossible for us to unknow that this content exists. If we had just played the game blind, most of us would have given Tenna to Metaton. We would have followed our hearts, solved both their problems, and never even realized that we missed out on something interesting. We would have been blissfully ignorant. Because of this meta-knowledge, our in-game decisions are fundamentally warped. Toby gave us an active incentive to sabotage these characters. Metaton is doomed to stay a depressed nobody. No inspiration means no character arc. It might not impact the story directly, but recall Jackenstein for a moment. He is an optional side character who permanently dies if you don't get all the recruits, even if the story doesn't really change past that. Metaton's and Tenna's fates could be locked in just as permanently. Which brings us to the core irony of this conundrum: the player's gaze. Just think about what Tenna actually wants. He wants an audience, he wants to be watched. And by leaving him behind in your castle town so you can see his cutscenes, you are watching him. You are giving him what he craves in the most meta and exploitative way possible, because he has no idea you are even there. If Tenna knew how much the fandom adores him, Spamton and the Mike trio, he would be over the moon. In the end, you become Tenna's most dedicated viewer. That is the player's gaze in action. And weirdly, this is a massive shift for Deltarune. Usually, seeing everything in this game is pacifist coded. The more compassion you show and the more enemies you recruit, the fuller your town becomes and the more content you unlock. The TV studio, the minigames and the mic room, where the cutscene actually happens, by the way, are all completely inaccessible if you don't recruit everyone. Queen's and Lancer's rooms are also notably empty if you treat people with violence. So in Deltarune, doing the right thing has always rewarded you with the most content. But here, Toby for some reason breaks his own pattern by locking exclusive content behind a cruel choice. This is why seeing less after a good decision in the nice playthrough is intriguing to me. It forces you to weigh your options and ask yourself a very uncomfortable question. What do you prioritize? The well-being of these characters, or once again, your own curiosity? I say once again because this isn't a new question for Toby. The Tenna dilemma is just the latest example of one of his biggest recurring themes that tied the entirety of Undertale together. I'm talking about the slow detachment of the player. Think about how the Undertale's genocide route actually works. You don't start the game with unrelenting malice towards the characters, but at some point you become too curious. And once you have seen the good ending, the suspension of disbelief wears off. Your friends just become sets of numbers, lines of dialogue, and you destroy their world just to see what happens. You detach. And we see this exact same thing in Deltarune's weird route. It doesn't offer a traditional narrative reward, at least at the beginning. You do it out of pure destructive curiosity. And that blindly driven malice beautifully contrasts with how transactional the Tenna dilemma is. Because here Toby gives you a direct, explicit reason to hurt someone. This connects to Deltarune's overall theme of your choices don't matter. It's the same question the game keeps asking you. Will you still try to do the right thing, even when it feels like you won't change anything in the end? Jevil, Spamton and Chom are all examples of what happens when someone fully gives in to that fatalism. And as I said before, Tenna is among the game's most popular characters, along with someone like Spamton. People dream about being able to recruit them to their castle town, to have more interactions with them. Giving away one of such beloved, quirky guys goes straight against this wish, so for some people, the decision becomes obvious. And when you choose to leave Tenna behind for extra scenes, you're actively proving the game's point. That given the chance, you will prioritize seeing everything, over doing what's best for the characters you claim to care so much about. It all really makes me wonder if Toby Fox even did this with the teaser on purpose. Like, did he expect this to influence our decision to leave Tenna in Castletown? Or did he just share this specific moment because it features popular characters like Tenna, Mike and Spamton without spoiling the actual plot? Considering Toby's record, I am sure he's aware of how his fans treat his games and characters. I think it's yet another case of him using meta elements to tell a deeper story and test you. And now, if you've been listening closely, you might be thinking, well, this entire dilemma is easy to avoid. I'll just give Tenna to Metaton on my main file and leave him in Castletown on a second playthrough. That's fair, but even then, you are falling into Toby's meta-narrative trap. By treating their suffering as something you can just quarantine to save file to, you are treating the story like a checklist. The moment you say, I'll just reset and do the other route, you have fully embraced player detachment, which is the part of the narrative. That's the game winning. You don't avoid the test. But of course, there is one final loophole. You can just do the right thing, give Tenna his happy ending, and then go watch the missable cutscenes on YouTube. You get to be the good person and you get the content. But obviously, Toby Fox thought of that years ago too. Back in Undertale's genocide route, Flowey explicitly calls out the sickos who watch others play just to see what happens, without getting their own hands dirty. And that perfectly applies to this Tenna situation. Personally, I know where I stand. I choose to give Tenna to Metaton because it's what they both need. But I also know myself. I am still the type of person to watch all the missable content on YouTube. I will gladly break my immersion, watch someone else exploit these characters, and get everything without getting my hands dirty. Just like Flowey said all those years ago.